Hello, dear children. Welcome back. I'm Dr. Jisha Jo. In this session, we are starting with a new chapter, sense organs. What are sense organs? Sense organs enable us to be aware of our external and internal environments. So, in our kindergarten classes, we have studied that we have 5 main sense organs. They are the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. It is these sense organs, or it is with the help of these sense organs, that we are able to perceive the sensations around us. We are able to sense our environment. There are certain specialized cells in our sense organs which are called as the receptors, which help us to perceive the stimulus. So, the sense organs help us or enable us to be aware of our external and internal environment. So, in our 10th standard ICSE syllabus, we have to study the structure and function of eye and ear, and also some defects that are common to our eye. In this session, I am starting with the structure of eye. Where are our eyes located? We know our eyes are located on the front side of our head in deep sockets or orbits. Okay, eyes are located in deep sockets or orbits on the front side of our head. And we are able to rotate our eyes. The movement of our eyes are due to the help of 6 muscles that are present in our eyes. So, first point, the location, it is located in deep sockets or orbits on the front side of the head, and we are able to rotate our eyes due to the presence of 6 muscles. Now, we know our eyes are protected by the eyelids, that is the eye. Okay, we have the eye. The eye is protected by the eyelid. We have the upper eyelid and the lower eyelid. Okay, what is the function of the eyelid? We have the upper and lower eyelid. The eyelids, these are the eyelids. Upper eyelid and lower eyelid. The eyelids help to protect the eye. It gives a protection to the front part of the eye, and also it shuts out light. It prevents light from entering into our eyes. When too much light is there, we normally close our eyes. So, shutting out light is also done with the help of the eyelids. So, eyelids provide protection to the front region of our eye. Then we have the eyelashes there. On the eyelids, we can see the eyelashes. Eyelashes are present on the both upper and lower eyelids. We can see the eyelashes. Okay, these are the eyelashes. Again, the function of the eyelashes is to prevent dust particles or large particles from entering into our eyes. So, the eyelids as well as the eyelashes provide protection to our eyes. Okay. Then we have the eyebrows there. Eyebrows, even though eyebrows is not a part of our eye, eyebrows give protection to our eye, that is the eyebrows. That is the eyebrow. The eyebrows protect our eye. Again, how does it protect the eye? It prevents when we sweat. The eyebrows prevent the sweat or the raindrops from trickling down into our eye. It prevents the water drops or the sweat from moving down into our eyes or trickling down into our eyes, and prevent its entry into the eyes. Okay, so we have seen about the eyelids, the eyelashes, and the eyebrows. So, once again, eyes are present inside deep orbits or sockets, and the eye has the shape of a ball, and it this ball is inserted into this socket or orbit, and the movement of our eye is possible due to the presence of 6 muscles. Then we have the eyelids protecting the eyes. The eyelids protect the front side of the eyes, and also it shuts out light. Then we have the eyelashes there. Eyelashes also prevent the entry of large particles into our eyes. Dust particles are prevented from entering into our eyes due to the presence of eyelashes. Then we have the eyebrow there. The eyebrows actually they are not a part of the eye, but they give protection to the eye by preventing the sweat or the water drops from trickling down into our eyes. Okay. Next region, we have the tear gland. The tear gland is almost located at this region, that is the tear gland. Tear gland, it is otherwise called as the lacrimal gland. As you can see in the figure, it is located on the upper sideward portion of the eye. The tear gland or the lacrimal gland is located on the upper sideward portion of the orbit of eye. And the function of the tear gland, as the name indicates, the function is to secrete tears. Okay, so the tear gland location and function of lacrimal gland can be asked. So where is it located? It is located on the upper sideward portion of the orbit of the eye, and the function of the lacrimal gland is to secrete tears. Now there are 4 functions of tears. Okay, the first function of tears is to lubricate the eye. Okay, lubrication. It acts as a lubricant. It is a lubricant. By opening and closing the eyelids, we are spreading out the tears. The tears that are secreted by the lacrimal gland is poured into our eyes through ducts. Through 6 to 12 ducts are present. Okay, tubes are present from the gland that pour this secretion or the tear into our eyes. And this tear that has been poured into our eyes is spread throughout our eyes by the opening and closing of the eyelids. Okay, so the tear acts as a lubricant for the eye. Second one is that it washes away the dust particles. Washes away. If suppose any dust particles have entered into our eyes, what happens normally? Tears flow out of our eyes. That is a mechanism to throw away or wash away the dust particles that might have entered into our eyes. So washes away the dust particles. The third function of tears is that it has an enzyme called lysozyme. Lysozyme is actually it has an antiseptic property, so it is able to kill the germs. If any germs are present in the eyes, or if any germs have entered into the eyes, the lysozyme present in the tears have antiseptic property, and it helps in killing the germs. And the fourth function of tears is that it helps us to communicate our emotions. Emotions are communicated with the help of our tears. We know when we feel very happy, our eyes get filled with tears. Similarly, when we are sad, also we cry. So tears help us to express our emotions, communicate our emotions. So these are the functions of tears. So tears secreted by the tear gland or the lacrimal gland, which is located on the upper sideward portion of the orbit of the eye, and the gland pours the secretion into the eye by means of 6 to 12 ducts. Okay. And the functions of tears is, the first function is it acts as a lubricant. The second function is that it washes away the dust particles that have entered into our eye. The third function, it has enzyme called lysozyme, which has an antiseptic property and helps in killing the germs. And the fourth function of tears is it helps us to communicate our emotions. Okay, now the tears that have been or that is present in the eye, okay, is drained through ducts that are present here in this region of the eye, that is the inner angle of the eye. There are ducts that are present at the inner angle of the eye, and these ducts are called as the lacrimal duct. It drains off the excess liquid or the tear. That is why we know when we cry what happens? Our nose gets filled, isn't it? We will have a runny nose when we cry. That is because the excess tears gets drained out through this lacrimal duct into our nose. That is why our nose gets water flows out from our nose when we cry. Similarly, we all have experience, most of us might have experience, that is when we pour medicine into our eyes, what will happen? This medicine will flow down and it will come into our nose. The liquid flows into our nose, isn't it? Sometimes it might even come to our throat. It comes to our mouth. The taste of the medicine we can feel in our mouth also. It passes into our throat also. Okay, so this is actually happening because of this. That is, the excess liquid in the eye is drained out through these ducts that are present on the inner angle of our eye into a sac that is present there. This is called as the lacrimal sac. Okay, and this sac is in contact with a duct there inside the nose. There is a duct inside the nose. This duct is called as the nasolacrimal duct. And it is through this duct our nose gets filled with the medicine or filled with the excess liquid. So what happens here? The excess liquid from the eye is drained out through the lacrimal ducts that are present on the inner angle of our eye into a sac which is called as the lacrimal sac, and from this the liquid is drained through a duct which is called as the nasolacrimal duct into our nasal cavity. Now we shall study the structure of our eye. Okay, so we know the eye has the shape, or it is in the form of a ball. It is called as the eyeball, and the wall of our eyeball is formed of 3 concentric layers. The outermost layer is called as the sclera or the sclerotic layer. The middle layer is called as the choroid layer, and the innermost layer is called as the retina. So these are the 3 wall layers of the eyeball. Outermost layer is the sclera or the sclerotic layer, middle layer is the choroid layer, and innermost layer is the retina. Now with the help of the diagram we shall study the structure of the eye. So as we have seen, the outermost layer is the sclera. So I am drawing the sclera there. Okay, that is the sclera. And when we talk about the sclera is formed of a tough fibrous tissue, and it is white in color. The white part that you can see here in our eye is actually the sclera. Okay, so that is the outer layer. It is formed of tough and fibrous tissue, and it is white in color. And in the front part of the eye, the front region of the eye, the sclera bulges out and becomes transparent. Okay, so in the front part of the eye, the sclera, that is actually the sclera which comes towards the front and it bulges out in the front, and this region is called as the cornea. Okay, that region which bulges out in the front region, front part of the eye is transparent and is called as the cornea. Okay, so once again, sclera is the outermost layer of the eyeball, wall of the eyeball. It is formed of white. It is formed of tough fibrous tissue. It is white in color, and in the front part of the eye, the sclera bulges out and becomes transparent. Over that colored portion of the eye, the black or the blue or the brown colored portion of the eye, this sclera becomes transparent, and this region is called as the cornea. Okay, now moving on to the next layer, that is the middle layer. Middle layer is the choroid. Middle layer is the choroid. That is the middle layer I am drawing now. Okay. That is the middle layer. The part or the region marked blue, that is the middle layer. I am marking it as the choroid. Okay, and the characteristic feature of the choroid is that it is richly supplied with blood vessels, and it is this layer that provides nourishment to the eye. The cells of the eye gets its nourishment from the blood vessels that are present in the choroid layer. Okay, so the choroid layer is the middle layer. It is richly supplied with blood vessels and provides nourishment to the eye. Another important feature of the choroid is that it has a dark colored pigment, a black pigment, which is called as melanin. Melanin pigment is also present in the choroid, and the function of the melanin pigment is to prevent the scattering and reflection of light inside the eye. The light, as it enters into the eye, it is due to the presence of the melanin pigment that is present in the choroid. The reflection and scattering of, otherwise the light will reach here, then it will reflect and it will get scattered throughout the eye. So it is due to the presence of this melanin pigment which prevents the reflection and the scattering of the light rays within the eye. Okay, now if you move to the front region, the choroid is expanded at the front. The choroid expands to form a structure which is called as the ciliary body. That is the ciliary body. The ciliary body is formed of circular muscles that help in changing the shape of our lens. Okay, so it is actually, the ciliary body is actually a part of the choroid. It is an expansion of the choroid layer in the front part of the eye, and the ciliary body has circular muscles that help in changing the shape of our lens. Then again, the choroid layer extends in the front to form the colored region of the eye that we see, that is the iris. The colored portion of the eye, that is the extension of the choroid in the front part of our eye, which is called as the iris, and there is a small opening there at the center which is called as the pupil. Okay, and when we talk about the iris has both radial and circular muscles, and these muscles help in widening and constricting the pupil. The iris have radial and circular muscles. The circular muscles help to constrict the pupil. When excess of light is entering into eye, suddenly a pupil constricts. This is due to the circular muscles that are present on the iris. When the surrounding are dim, when there is dim light around, more light has to enter into our eye to increase our sight. or vision. So during this time, the pupil expands or widen up to allow the entry of more light into the eye, and this is due to the radial muscles that are present on the iris. So the radial and the circular muscles present on the iris help in the widening and the constriction of the pupil. Okay, so that means the light enters into our eye through the pupil. Okay, the pupil constricts due to the activity of the circular muscles, and the widening of the pupil is due to the presence or the activity of the radial muscles that are present on the iris. So I hope that is clear. The choroid is the middle layer of the wall of the eyeball. The choroid is richly supplied with blood vessels. It provides the nourishment for the eye, and it contains the dark pigment which is called as melanin, which prevents the reflection and scattering of light rays within the eye. In the front region, the choroid is expanded to form the ciliary body. Ciliary body has circular muscles which help in changing the shape of the lens. Okay, then again the choroid extends to the front of the eye to form the colored portion of our eye. This part is called as the iris. The iris leaves a small opening there which is called as the pupil. The light enters into the eye through that small opening which is the pupil. The widening and the constriction of the pupil is brought about by the activity of the radial and circular muscles that are present on the iris. Now we can see the lens behind the iris. That is the lens that you see there. It is a biconvex transparent structure. It is formed of transparent lens fibers which are actually long cells, thin cells which do not have nucleus in them. Okay, they do not have the nuclei and they are thin cells. They are called as the fibers. The lens is actually formed of thin cells which are called as lens fibers. It is transparent. Okay, the lens is transparent and it has a biconvex shape, and the lens is attached to the ciliary body by means of fibers. You can see the fibers attached there. These fibers are called as the suspensory ligaments. These are the suspensory ligaments. So the lens is attached to the ciliary body by means of the suspensory ligaments. The lens is biconvex, transparent structure, and it is formed of lens fibers which are long cells without nuclei, and the lens is attached to the ciliary body by means of fibers which are called as the suspensory ligaments. That is the lens there. Okay, now moving on to the innermost layer of the eye, which is the retina. That is the retina there. This layer is sensitive to light. Okay, that is the layer, innermost layer, which is sensitive to light, which I am marking in red. Okay, that is the retina. The retina is sensitive to light and it contains the sensory cells. Two types of sensory cells are present on the retina. They are the rods and the cones. Okay, rod cells and the cone cells are the two sensory cells that are present on the retina, rods and cones. Now when we talk about these sensory cells, the rods are sensitive to dim light. Okay, so the rods are sensitive to dim light and they do not respond to color. Can we see color in dark? We cannot differentiate the colors in a dark room. isn't it? So it is the rods that work when we are in dim light. So the rods are sensitive to dim light. They do not respond to color. And the pigment present in rods is rhodopsin. Rhodopsin is the pigment. It is otherwise called as rhodopsin. It is otherwise called as visual purple. Visual purple is the pigment that is produced by the rods cells, which are sensitive to dim light. And where is actually the location? They are located or distributed throughout the retina. The rods are distributed almost throughout the retina. So the four things that you should remember is rod cells are sensitive to dim light. They do not respond to color. The pigment present is rhodopsin or visual purple, and distribution almost throughout the retina. Now when we move on to the second type of sensory cells, which are the cones, the first point, they are sensitive to light, bright light. They are sensitive to bright light. The second point, they are color sensitive. We can differentiate the color in bright light, isn't it? So color vision is possible due to the cone cells. Third point, the pigment present is iodopsin. Iodopsin is the pigment present, iodopsin. And the distribution of the cones are mostly distributed at a region which is called as the yellow spot. Yellow spot is a region which is seen exactly opposite to the lens on the horizontal axis of the eye. You can see I will be drawing that now. So it will be almost at this particular region. So cones are mostly concentrated on the yellow spot. Okay, so I hope you have understood the difference between rods and cones. 4 points of difference. The first one, rods are sensitive to dim light. Cones are sensitive to bright light. Rods do not respond to color. Cones are responsible for color vision. The third point, the pigment present in rods is rhodopsin, whereas the pigment present in cones is iodopsin. Now coming to distribution, rods are distributed almost throughout the retina, whereas the cones are distributed mostly at the yellow spot. Okay, so that is with regard to the rods and cones. Now the yellow spot, that is a region on the retina. Okay, that is a region, it is almost at the opposite on the horizontal axis. Opposite to the lens, you can see the yellow spot. That is the yellow spot. It is opposite to the lens. On the horizontal axis of the eye, you can see the yellow spot. So when normally the structure of the eye is asked for the exam. So when you draw the structure, remember to draw the yellow spot exactly opposite to the lens on the horizontal axis of the eye. Okay, because the light has to fall on the yellow spot for color vision and for bright vision. So that is the reason why we move our eyes. Our eyes move while we read the book. Okay, that is because the light rays have to fall exactly on the yellow spot, because the cones are maximum at the region of yellow spot. So when you draw also, the yellow spot should be exactly opposite to the lens on the horizontal axis of the eye. Okay, then that is the yellow spot. So I haven't marked the retina. That is the retina. That is the yellow spot. Yellow spot is also called as macula lutea or fovea centralis. Location and function can be asked, and mostly the term fovea centralis or macula lutea might be asked, because those are confusing terms. Yellow spot, you will easily remember what is it, where is it located, but the terms fovea centralis and macula lutea are important. You should be familiar with those two terms. They are the other terms for the yellow spot. Okay, and it is the region where maximum number of cones are present. It is the region of brightest vision and color vision. Now a little below the yellow spot you can see another region where the sensory cells, all the sensory cells join together and come out of the eye as the optic nerve. This region is called as the blind spot. There are no sensory cells present here. The nerves from the different nerve fibers from the different sensory cells, all the sensory cells are located on the retina, and the fibers, the nerve fibers from all these sensory cells join together and converge and come out of the eye as the optic nerve at this region, blind spot. So the blind spot will not have any sensory cells. Okay, so it should be little below the yellow spot. It is drawn a little below the yellow spot. That is the blind spot, and remember, it is the region where no sensory cells are present. And since no sensory cells are present, no vision is possible at the blind spot, and it is the region at which all the nerve fibers join together, converge and come out of the eye as the optic nerve. Okay, so that is with regard to the blind spot. Now let me complete the structure of the eye. So that is okay. Okay, so that is the optic nerve there. That is the optic nerve. The optic nerve comes out at the region of the blind spot. Okay, blind spot is the region where all the nerve fibers from the different sensory cells converge and come out of the eye as the optic nerve. So that is the optic nerve. Okay, so we have discussed about the structure of the eyeball, the three wall layers, the outermost layer, the sclera or the sclerotic layer. The sclerotic layer is white in color, and in the front region it bulges out, becomes transparent to form the cornea. Then regarding the choroid, it is the layer which is richly supplied with blood vessels and provides nourishment for the eye. It also has the melanin pigment. Location and function of melanin is important. Then it is the from the choroid layer the ciliary body and the iris arises. Then we have seen the pupil, how the constriction and the widening of the pupil occurs with the help of or by the action of the muscles that are present on the iris. Then we have seen that the shape of the lens is changed due to the muscles that are present on the ciliary body. Then moving on to the innermost layer, it is the retina, which has the sensory cells called the rods and the cones. Rods are sensitive to dim light, cones are sensitive to bright light. We have seen a region which is called as the yellow spot or the fovea centralis or macula lutea, which is a region which is a region exactly opposite to the lens. On the horizontal axis of the eye, you can see the yellow spot, and remember, it is the region where the maximum number of cones are present. So it is the region of brightest vision and best vision. Then a little below the yellow spot is the blind spot. It is the region or the point where all the nerve fibers from the different sensory cells converge and come out of the eye as the optic nerve. Okay. Then there is, in addition to all those structures that I told in the beginning of the session about about the eyelids, the eyelashes, eyebrows, etc., there is another structure, another thin membrane covering the front part of the eye. Okay, that is what I am going to draw now. That is called as the, that is a very thin membrane, very thin membrane, which is present in the front part of the eye. It is transparent and it is called as the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva. Okay, it is a thin membrane, and the sides of the conjunctiva are continuous with the inner lining of the eyelid. That is the eyelid. Okay, so I'll just draw the eyelid in another color. That is the eyelid with the eyelashes, you can see. So you can see the conjunctiva, the ends of the conjunctiva are in continuation with the inner lining of the eyelids. Okay, conjunctiva, the function of conjunctiva is again protection of the eye. It is a very thin transparent membrane. That means when we look into the eye, we can see the sclera, and the dark colored portion at the center is actually the iris that we see there. At the center of the iris, you can see a very small region which is the pupil. Okay, and we can see all these, that is the sclera, the iris, the pupil, all these we can see through the conjunctiva. It is through the conjunctiva we are able to see all these parts. So remember, conjunctiva is a very thin transparent layer on covering the front part of the eye, and it is continuous with the inner wall of the eyelids, or inner lining of the eyelids. And you might have heard of conjunctivitis. It is a condition when the conjunctiva is infected with virus, or it is due to viral infection. The conjunctiva turns reddish in color, or the redness of conjunctiva is caused due to viral infection, and this leads to a condition called conjunctivitis. Now, as you can see from the figure, there are two chambers, one a large chamber there and a small chamber in front of the eye, that is between the cornea and the lens. There is a small chamber here, and there is a large chamber behind the lens. This small chamber that you see here is the aqueous chamber. Okay, that is the aqueous chamber. Where will I label it? That is the aqueous chamber, and the aqueous chamber is filled with a fluid which is called as the aqueous humor. Okay, so where is it located? It is a small chamber located between the cornea and the lens, and the large chamber, that is, this is called as the vitreous chamber. Vitreous chamber lies behind the lens. Okay, it is a large chamber, or the large cavity of the eyeball which is seen behind the lens. Now, as I told you, the aqueous chamber is filled with a fluid which is called as the aqueous humor. It is a clear watery fluid that is present there, and it has two functions. The first function is it keeps the lens moist and prevents it from from physical shock. That is the protection of the lens. Okay, keeps the lens moist and prevents or protects the lens from physical shocks. And second function of aqueous humor is that it refracts the light. Refraction of light takes place due to the presence of aqueous humor. So aqueous chamber has the fluid which is called as the aqueous humor. It is a clear thin watery fluid, and the function, just two functions: it keeps the lens moist and protects the lens from physical shock, and it helps in the refraction of light. Now when we move on to the vitreous chamber, I told you the vitreous chamber also has a fluid, but this fluid is a little bit jelly like thicker fluid, unlike the fluid that is present here. Okay, it is jelly like thick fluid, and it is called as the vitreous humor. And here again, the vitreous humor also have two functions. It helps in keeping the shape of the eyeball. The shape of the eyeball is kept or it is maintained due to the presence of vitreous humor, which is a thick jelly like fluid, which is again transparent. Okay, and another function is also that it protects the retina and the nerve endings. The nerve endings and the retina are protected due to the vitreous humor. So once again, the large cavity there behind the lens is called as the vitreous chamber. It is filled with a transparent jelly like thick fluid, which is called as the vitreous humor. Again, vitreous humor has two functions. First one, it helps to maintain the shape of the eyeball, and second function, it protects the retina and the nerve endings. So my dear children, I hope this session is clear to you. If you have any doubts or suggestions, please ask your doubts and give your suggestions in the comment section. Thank you.